Hello guys, this is part 2 of What If Naruto X Tayuya's. Hope you enjoy. Chapter 4. Dwelling on the Past and the Future. Naruto. Night had fallen a long time ago. By Tayuya's nearest guess, it was close to midnight, and they would be leaving with Jiraiya in 36 hours. The area around them had been turned into a wasteland, trees bent at odd angles, the ground carved into at random intervals with varying depths, dying embers from the fires he'd begun, as he mastered the Kakyaku no Jutsu that Sasuke had given him. Naruto. She said again. Stop it. Don't tell me what to do. He yelled, most of his clothing burned away in his early failures to create the grand fireball. She could see the thin miasma coming off of him, and the fluctuation in his voice told her that he wasn't stable. Stop it, you goddamn piss brain. Just fucking stop. Within seconds, he was right in front of her, and she could feel the corrupted chakra flowing through him. All it would take is 5 minutes for the Kyuubi's chakra to eat you alive. Don't get in my way. Do it then, you bitch. Kill me like Konoha should have done when they found me. Kill me like Orochimaru will, if I ever get captured. Kill me like Sasuke would have before you stopped him. I don't give a fuck. Naruto's eyes narrowed, the malicious chakra beginning to draw itself to his stomach in a concentrated ball. Then, without warning, it disappeared as his eyes returned to their natural blue. I can't. You're too soft, Naruto. Only because you haven't given me a reason not to be. Come on. Let's go home. He didn't let her get wise to the fact that she'd been using his real name, since she didn't seem to realize it herself. His answers would have to wait. Naruto woke to a heavy weight shifting on top of him. Blinking twice, he realized that it was actually Tayuya. Care to explain? I was cold, you're warm, she mumbled. Now lem sleep. Whatever you say, Haim-sama. Should I worry about being used as a teddy bear every night? Yes. Trying his best to ignore the tangle of limbs around him, Naruto closed his eyes and drifted back to sleep. 2 hours later, he woke up again, but this time it was to the sound of Tayuya's new flute. The notes were gentle, flowing, and felt laced with a haunting sadness that he understood, but couldn't quite put his finger on. You play well, he said, making her stop in surprise. The startling effect of being caught in such a private moment was foreign to her. In a Togeker, she'd never been able to let down her guard. On the other hand, being around Naruto was enough to put her at ease, something else that she wasn't used to. His particular brand of personal gravity was unnerving, but not unwelcome. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you stop. Are you hungry? She nodded, then went back to playing. As he got out the flour, intent on making pancakes, he realized the name of the emotion that her song made him feel. Loneliness. There was something that he understood painfully well, and the night before had only confirmed it. Why had Kakashi not told him before? Why had Jiraiya said nothing? Had Tsunade not known? Why would the Sandaime have kept secrets from him? How was it that nobody, not even Naruto himself, had recognized the physical similarities between himself and his father? He needed to know the answers to those questions. He had 1 day left before they were going to leave Konoha for 3 years, and that meant he had to find out today. He would be going to the back room of the Shinobi Library after their brunch. The court of service signature technique. Goddamn, nothing here. I can't find anything either, shithead. I'm going as fast as I. She stopped, finding something. Hey, look at this. Uzumaki Kushina. Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Wife of the Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze Minato. Deceased, Kyuubi attack. Notable achievements: defense of Konohagakure in the Third Great War, suppression of hostilities after the end of the war. Relations: Namikaze Minato, deceased, Kyuubi attack. Unnamed child, deceased, Kyuubi attack. According to the Akashic record of Konoha, he didn't exist. Uzumaki Naruto. Unknown parentage. Active duty. Notable achievements: liberation of Nami no Kuni, defeat of the Chibi Jinchuriki Sabaku no Gar. Specialty: ninjutsu. Or maybe he did. Unknown parentage. My ass. Tayuya said. Maybe we can find out why in the legal section. Naruto groaned inwardly. He was an enemy of established law, not one of its proponents. Of course, after the Uchiha massacre, there hadn't been much of a law outside of the Sandaime's will. It would have been put in place after the Kyuubi attack. Naruto said. Looks like there's only one book that has anything that recent. Makes it easy. Tayuya said. 15 minutes later, they had found it. The Sandaime Hokage's mandate. That no citizen of the village, or any member of its shinobi forces, revealed to Uzumaki Naruto, or any of the younger generations to follow in the future, his parentage or Jinchuriki's status, under pain of death. Citing fear for the newborn's life from the enemies of his parents in Iwagakure and Kamagakure, as well as wishing to avoid ignorant attacks from civilians upon his life or ostracization based upon Jinchuriki's status. The mandate has been critically reviewed as poor judgment on the Sandaime's part due to the latter two occurrences' frequency, and a lack of control over his own strength. All of it, written plainly as day, in the one place he never would have gone until the revelation from last night had hit him. He was just trying to help me, Naruto said. He failed, but he was just trying to help. It didn't take a genius to know that he was saying it for his own benefit, trying to make himself believe it. You need to take your mind off of it. Tayuya said, taking the book and putting it back on the shelf. Not that you're interested, but I know some ways. If it has anything in relation to the girls I protect as part of my rent, then yeah, I'm not gonna bite. Tayuya mock pouted, looking behind Naruto and draping her arms across his chest. Are you sure? Yes. Besides, I know you're acting. All you're no fun. Says every teenage girl with a sex drive to a guy that doesn't want what she's putting out. Can't be a drive if you haven't driven before, piss brain. Now follow me outside, and you're gonna think of something to do that'll take your mind off of this bullshit. Wordlessly and gratefully, he followed after her. Walking into the weapon shop, Naruto felt an odd sense of comfort, probably because he knew that none of these weapons would be used against him. Boy, anyone home? Naruto-kun. Came the voice of a girl Tayuya hadn't met yet. Hey, Tenten-chan. How's the old man? Out back, forging. You know how he is. Why are you here, and who's she? Tayuya. The Redeed announced herself. Technically, I'm a prisoner, but the Hokage decided to torture me by making this blonde ball of ass-kissing sunshine be my guard. Oh, I heard about that from Niji. You're the survivor. Yeah. Well, since you haven't killed anyone yet, and Naruto-kun hasn't gone after you, I guess that means you're okay. I'll ask you again, though, Naruto-kun. Why are you here? Geez, can't an old friend pay a visit? That's what you said last time, and then you painted the Hokage monument to make them all look like they were from Street Fighter. Although, I have to admit, that was funny. I never would have suspected that the shot aim was secretly Bison. Yeah, there was a far-off look in Naruto's eyes, and then he stopped reliving the memory. Really, though, I came here for business. Think your pops can be convinced to let me make myself a special order that needs to be done before noon tomorrow? That depends, what are you looking to make? We've always been glad when you've come around. I know you know how to forge, but you ever wielded a falx, Ten-chan? Those curved swords you have to wield backwards. They're so impractical, you have to swing them like an axe. You ever see what it can do? No, I've never actually known anybody who's used one. Well, I remember hearing about it, and there was a man who used one on a C-rank mission that I went on. It can split through samurai armor and the chainmail they have underneath. It can cut off any limb in one swing and go all the way through someone. It breaks through swords with a strong enough swing. Basically, once you learn to use it, you don't really need much else. The claw is difficult to master, though. Tenten thought about it for a moment. Well, go ahead. With you new clones, you'll probably get it done in half the time. Thanks. I'll come back tomorrow to pick it up and pay you. 10 clones appeared, rushing into the back room. Oi, Higurashi Otu-sen. We're home, one clone said. Tenten smiled. Some days, I wish she picked you instead of me, you know. You don't deserve what happened to you. Nah, I'm glad it turned out like this. Tenten the crybaby turned into a woman I'd be scared to run into. Only because of you. She countered. You made me want to get stronger, and made it feel like everything was going to be okay. Now it was Naruto's turn to smile. I just do what I can. I care, maybe a little too much. Anyway, though, I thought that you and us and the rest of the Konoha 12 might be able to go out for dinner tonight. I swiped Hiro-sen's checkbook, so the whole thing will be my treat. Golden dragons sound good enough. If you hadn't come in here with a girl, I would have thought you were hitting on me just now. Is this a bribe? Tenten raised an eyebrow. God, no, I'm no womanizer. You should remember that much about me, at least. Besides, don't you like Niji? I mean, I'd settle for Niji, sure. You're the one who had me first, though, Naruto Oni-chan. She joked. Right? Because that doesn't sound sketchy as fuck. Naruto rolled his eyes. Hey, I've seen you naked. We were 4 and 5, I think, but still. I've seen you naked, and it was before you got all those scars you keep trying to hide. Honest to God, for a man who's such shit at Jinjutsu, you sure figured out how to make a really fucking good one. It doesn't help that he keeps fucking losing his top. Tayuya added. You think he actually wants them to be seen? Oh, no. We're not doing this. The two of you are not going to bond by mocking me. Actually, Ani-chan, that's exactly what we're going to do. Matter of fact, I think I'll upgrade you to that from Piss for Brains. Tayuya mocked him. Because his hair is yellow. You know what, Ani-chan, I take it back. I love this village. This girl gets me. As usual, for Naruto, things always seem to go from bad to worse. Never in his life would he have thought that being called a big brother could feel so demeaning, let alone that it felt like Tayuya was insulting him more by calling him that. There was no mercy in this world, or, rather, it was the fact that he always gave those mercies up. Quietly, as the two young women talked, he began to drift back into his memories. Naruto huddled closely to the smaller Tenten, his jacket large enough to fit both of them inside of it with tossed-out rags from a dumpster serving as a blanket. He was hungry, he hadn't eaten in 2 days, but Tenten was smaller, and had needed the food more. For the last 2 days, he'd given the free bowls of ramen from Tucci and AM to Tenten instead of eating them himself. Even now, he was giving her the heat from his body, so that she could stay warm on the cold winter night. She had cried herself to sleep again, and her tears had soaked through his shirt to wet his skin. They had found Higurashi's smithy, and shop a couple of days later, and Naruto had insisted that he take Tenten. I only have space for one, the man told him. The look in his eyes conveyed a deep sorrow that the two wouldn't be able to stay together. You would really let her have my home, and not yourself. Of course, when Tenten woke up, she had immediately run out to find her beloved, Ani-san, only for Naruto to show up and take her back to the man's forge. This is your home now, Ten-chan. He'll give you food and water every day. I promise you, one day, I'll see you in the ninja academy. Promise me you'll grow up strong, okay? Tenten was choking up, threatening to cry. Oh okay, Ani-san, and promise. Promise. I never go back on my word. Absent-mindedly, he sent out shadow clones to meet with the other members of the Konoha 12, a collection of genin who'd taken the Chunin exams together that Naruto had failed to graduate with, followed by his theft of the Forbidden Scroll. They would be there, he knew, except for Rock Lee. That boy was so battered, it was a miracle he'd survived. Naruto's personal theory was that the boy had some kind of god looking after him. Shithead, you really are just way too nice. Tenten had just finished telling Tayuya about how she'd managed to end up as the adopted daughter of a weaponsmith, just as Naruto had been remembering it. Can't help it. He grunted. Too hard not to be nice. You're a ninja, Naruto-kun, you're not supposed to be nice. Mission priorities, stuff like that, we learned it in school. I didn't learn shit in school. Why do you think I failed 3 times, and got by on a fluke? You're telling me that they made you a genin anyway after you failed the 3rd time. Extenuating circumstances. I maybe, kind of, stole the Forbidden Scroll and learned a technique off of it. After that, it was executioner recruitment. You did what? Snuck into the Hokage mansion in the dead of night between patrol shifts, incapacitated the Hokage with a henge jutsu that I refused to reenact in present company, stole the Forbidden Scroll, fled into the forest surrounding Konoha, and managed to learn the Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu before using it to kill a traitor to the village. This brain, how the fuck did you manage to do that? My test grades were shit, but my practical application of skills was second to none by the 3rd go-around. Hell, I even knew all the answers to the test, and I still got them wrong on purpose, just to piss off Furuka-sensei. You should have seen him. He could sneak around wearing bright orange and reflective metal in broad daylight. Nobody ever saw him if he didn't want to be seen. Tenten added. Even though I graduated first, I guess I'm still lagging behind you, Ani-chan. Suddenly, a thought hit Naruto. Tenten-chan, I just realized, if we're going to the Golden Dragon, Tayuya-chan needs a little something more than he made a show of looking up and down in the Radide's direction. Let me guess, you want me to take her out and doll her up. Oh, fuck no. That shit ain't me. Hell with it, I'll wait outside and y'all fuckers can enjoy the meal. Even if I promise to keep telling you embarrassing stories about the mighty piss brain Ani-chan. I take it back. I'm going, and I'm gonna tell everybody. You can't stop me, piss Ani. It never failed, Naruto surmised. Everything would always find a way to go from bad to worse. Yeah. I'll be gone for 3 years. So this is my big treat for you youngsters, alright. Naruto, you're only a year or 2 older than us. Sasuke pointed out. I don't care, you're all babies. Babies I helped raise in the classroom. That wasn't class for you, you big moron, it was nap time. Kiba said, and got the laugh he'd been looking for out of the others. The Onizuka was brash and excitable, always trying to breathe a bigger life into a party. Or snack time. No matter how many bags of chips Furuka-sensei managed to take away, Naruto always had another one hidden. Chaoji said. Still do. Naruto declared, whipping out an unopened bag. The camaraderie, Tayuya had forgotten what this felt like, forgotten how good it felt to be surrounded by people you could laugh and joke with. The other members of the Sound Four had been comrades, but none of them were friends. If Orochimaru had ordered it, then they would have fought to the death in an instant. Kamimuro had been even worse. She felt strange, even with just the light amount of makeup that she had on. Enough to make it look like you have none. Tenten had said. Her kimono was a rich pupil, with a cloudy design sewn with navy blue. The long sleeves threw her off. So, Tayuya, I heard from a little bird that Naruto actually lives in a brothel. Is that true? Ino leaned forward, ever the gossip queen that she had always been. For all you know, he lives in my fucking pants, Blondie. Do not. Naruto countered, but the Radite across from him shook her head. Nothing you say is gonna help, piss brain. Tayuya laughed. Whose word are they gonna take, the one whose reputation is on the line, or the one who has no reason to lie? You dog. Kiba laughed, hand gripping the older boy's shoulder. You're a hero to us all. As the other young men crowded around Naruto, Tayuya mouthed a silent, we haven't done anything. Hinata looked over to the blonde boy, and missed the crucial, yet, that followed with an evil smirk in Naruto's direction. Sakura and Ino had the decency to blush. Tenten just smiled. She knew that, even if he acted like he wasn't enjoying himself, this was more than her older brother figure could have dreamed of happening to their lives. Ani-chan me next. Please. She said in a sultry voice, silently apologizing to Niji. You, Tenten's a broken. Ino laughed. Still, trying to keep that bro all to yourself, Tayuya, that's the real con, here. Oh, you should see him shirtless. Tayuya grinned. Once you get over just how big his muscles are, your eyes start to go down, and up, and down, and up. Oh my god, this isn't happening. Naruto hung his head in his hands. What, you don't want to give them a show now? That'd be the polite thing to do. Even Ichi joined in, ribbing on Naruto's shyness. Maybe you could even call it fate. I hate you all. Naruto moaned. I love you guys, but I really hate you all. Ah, he said he loves us. Tenten smirked. Time to share that love. I guess I changed my mind. Hinata goes next. Wah, ah. Hinata gasped as the older girl leaned over, cupping her large bust, and raising it to garner attention. I'm so dead. I'm, like, so far beyond dead, that death has come to unsheathe his scythe from inside of my ass. Naruto regretted having offered to do this. At least he wasn't paying for it. I mean, if you really want, I know a few things I can. No? He shot down Tayuya's proposal before it could start, and the laughter started all over again. It was a long night. Chapter 5. Leafing Konoha. The sword was cruelly curved, a two-handed behemoth that was designed to pierce through its targets, with all the subtlety of a rhino. Though the boy's clones had helped, providing a massive chakra that he manipulated to shape a sealing array, the real work had begun after the chakra surge caused them to dissipate. That chakra Higurashi had a difficult time with it. It was foul, corrosive, and violently powerful. The strength of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. It had blackened the metal he'd been using, a rough-hewn groove carved into the side to lower the overall weight of the blade. The dark chakra had given it a nearly melted look, but he could tell without testing it that it was stronger than any metal he'd ever worked before. It had no guard, only a simple leather-wrapped handle, but the blade's edge was on the inside of the curve. It was designed to be used like a scythe or grain thresher when attacking from the side, or similar to a mining pick when attacking from above. The lack of a guard also meant that it could rotate easily, protecting the blade from wearing down more quickly than necessary. It was not beautiful, the back of the weapon being jagged and sharp. It was, in truth, not really a sword. It was too big, too thick, too jagged and too curved. It was more like a slab of metal, one that had been broken off from the sharpest recession of a cave, and wielded as a weapon, because nothing else was available. This was not a weapon worthy of the samurai, or any ninja. This was a weapon worthy of Uzumaki Naruto. Finishing the seal that he carved into the pommel, he knew his work was done, when the sword shrank to a more manageable size. It would respond to Naruto's chakra and return to its true size whenever the boy willed. Tenten. He called out, waiting for the girl to appear before speaking again. The boy's sword is done. Take it to him. But he said he'd come pick it up. Besides, what about payment? Higurashi smiled gently. Do you remember what I told you about my family? They all died in the Second War. Yes. However, our clan name, Ja, was taken from a phrase in a language that isn't spoken anymore. Jaido. Translated, it means, repayment of debt. The toll we owe to that boy is greater than we can ever repay. He gave me a daughter to raise and love, to carry on the Ja way. He gave up his chance of a home, of knowing warmth and rest and a full stomach, because he believed it was more important for you to have those things. Jaido has no scale with which to measure how to repay a debt that massive. If he wants a sword, he will have one. If he wants 10, 20, 50 swords, I will make them. He pays nothing. Tenten knew that Naruto wouldn't like that. The blonde always liked to square his debts, and in his eyes, this would put him in their debt. Well, she could always tell him that it could be erased by. No? Bad Tenten. She told herself. That train of thought wasn't one to be entertained. Hi, Otu-san. She took it and left. What do you mean, I pay nothing? The hell are you on about, woman? That's what Otu-san said. He still feels indebted to you for what you did for me, please, just take it. I have to pay you something, at least. Let me. If you don't take it for free, I'm gonna be mad at you. Naruto sighed, and took it from her. In truth, this hadn't been what he'd expected at first glance, but after a few swings he understood. It's perfect. He smiled. Tell the old man I said thanks. Tenten grinned back, nodding before she disappeared in a shunshin to leave Naruto with Tayuya, standing near the east gate. Kakashi walked by, seemingly wandering around with his nose in the latest stitch of a book. Naruto hadn't seen the man move, but he'd heard the crinkling of paper as Kakashi put a note in his jacket pocket. Have a nice trip, you two. He looked up from his book, and the single uncovered eye seemed to convey a smile. Use protection. Kakashi-sensei, how da MMPH? MMT Fafi. Naruto's words were a garbled mess after Tayuya covered his mouth with one hand to stop him from causing a scene. One of the things you're gonna need to fucking learn, piss for brains, is that you have absolutely zero situational awareness of how your actions will affect others. God, I'm surprised every other sentence you say doesn't make people think we're fucking. She hissed. Not my fault. He retorted. You're the one who insisted on sleeping together. I heard that, Naruto. Kakashi said. You also need to work on volume. Still bold, Tayuya-chan. If you were 10 years older, maybe we could have been friends. Oh, yeah, like that shitty smut is anything realistic. Why would I read shitty smut, and why would I want it to be realistic? Reading fiction is a fantasy, it's an escape from everyday life. Besides, I need to have some hobby besides making certain that I'm late. Speaking of which, I should probably show up to that meeting. No, the road of life is ever winding. I don't think I've arrived at that meeting yet. With that, the Mirror Ninja kept walking, head once again buried in his book. Unfucking believable. Believe it. They set out on the road just after high noon had struck, 3 ninja on the road too, well, only one of them knew. A fair number of well-wishers had come to see them off, including Tsunade and Shizun. Hey, Iro-senin, what's the plan? We're heading straight east. 3 days until we reach our target. It's a surprise for you, kid. Don't say that. I hate surprises. This, from the best prankster since the great Jiraiya was a child. Oh, please. Like you could match me, Iro-senin. I pantsed the Sandame Hookage, and made him streak through the village trying to get the pants back. I used that jutsu on him, and stole the forbidden scroll. That's how I learned the Kage Bunshin. I tricked Tsunade into using Gamabunta's tongue as a towel when she got out of an onsen. Ugh, gross, I don't want to think about Abu-chan like that. Besides, I planted a stink bomb in Anbu headquarters, and put an odorless laxative powder in the Jounin lounge. Oh, yeah, well on top of that, I painted the Hookage monument and didn't get caught. Both of them said at once, shocked for a moment at having fallen in sync. Goddamn. Boys and their fucking egos, let's get a move on, huh? In a minute. I have a feeling we're being watched. I can't sense them, though. Within a second, Naruto had called forth a clone. We'll know in a second. Let's go on ahead anyway. Nodding, Jiraiya took off, followed by the 2 younger ninja. Once they were close to being out of eyesight, their watcher revealed himself. It's a bad habit to send a clone off with your teammates. What would they think if they knew, Uzumaki? Itachi, why are you here? To thank you for saving my brother. I may not have come home in 7 years, but I still have plenty of ears and eyes in Konoha. Give me one reason why I should believe you. Kisame and our leader don't know I'm here. You may have pulled a page right out of my book, so to speak. Besides, you and I, we hold opposing beliefs. I sacrificed everything for my brother. You would give anything for the village. I'm interested in seeing whether or not you change to become like me. I can't, Kinslayer. There aren't any Uzumaki left, besides me. You're wrong, and you're missing my point. Itachi ignored the barbed words with the patience of a man waiting for a mosquito to land, so that he could kill it. You and I, we're cut from the same cloth. The only difference is in our loyalties. I abandoned a village that venerated me. I killed a clan that saw me as the greatest of them since Madara's birth. You remain loyal to the people who wish for your death, and you always choose the road of mercy for your enemies, until there's no other path to take. One day, your loyalties will be tested, as mine were. That's when you will know whether you are bound by the orders you are given, or controlled by the bonds that you hold dear. Naruto stayed silent. You, the inheritor of the Sandame's will, and I, the one who follows the Yondame's path. I wonder, which of us will prove ourselves right in the end. Get out of here before I stop being nice. Naruto growled. Never, ever, compare yourself to that man. I may be allied with your enemies, and assigned against you, but rest assured I am not your opponent. If you ever need me, the raven will answer your call for help. The man broke into a flock of the mentioned birds, one of whom flew itself right into Naruto's mouth, and wormed its way inside of his stomach. For as long as the raven flies, there will always be someone to help you. Moments later, Naruto felt the dead weight of several genjutsu peel away from his senses to leave him standing with Jiraiya and Tayuya. What was that? I counted those layers. Whoever it was, they managed to drop 56 illusions at the same time. There's not many people who have that kind of skill. Tayuya offered. Come to think of it, the first one I thought of is the only man Orochimaru was afraid of. Itachi. All 3 said at once. We better hurry, then. I don't know why he's letting us get away, maybe he just didn't want to be caught passing by. Naruto said. It was a good enough answer to get the other 2 moving. They made camp off of the side of the road on the first night. Okay, too. Here's the idea. Over the next 3 years, I'm going to be training you in a lot of areas. No offense, Tayuya, but my focus will be on Naruto. However, when I'm not training him, I'd be more than happy to look at that seal on you, and see if I can make progress towards removing it. Hell, depending on how well he trains, I might even get the kid to see if he can find something I miss. Anyway, though, my focuses will be Taijutsu, Fuinjutsu, and making sure you learn how to control the Jiraiya stopped himself. Tayuya shook her head. I already know, Birdshit-sensei. It was in his file, before we left Itagagar. Well, that makes it easy. No dancing around the subject, I guess. Anyway, Naruto, if you make good headway with those, then I'll start training you in the Toad Sage arts. Though Jiraiya didn't enjoy Tayuya's new nickname for him, at least he wasn't alone in having one. I've never heard of those. What can they do? In the Second War, deep in Kaminari no Kuni, Tsunade, and Orochimaru and I were ambushed by 12 platoons. 48 on 3 seems a little bit excessive. Yeah, but we were the Sandame's students. So, anyway, what do those jackasses do? They cut off the top of a mountain and make it full, then they leave, because apparently that was good enough to finish the job. Admittedly, we were in a very small valley that we wouldn't have been able to outrun the damn thing, but I had Sage Mode. Using it, I was able to strengthen my body with so much chakra that I used my body as a shield for the other two, before I shoved a Rasengan into it that was big enough to crunch most of it into dust. That sounds insane. Yeah, but it's not a good idea to do stuff like that, especially not in wartime. Had I not been using Sage Mode, I would have died, and then the other two would have suffocated to death under me, because they weren't killed on impact. So, we're not going to train you in that, at all, until you've shown some huge improvements in physical strength, Fuinjutsu, and reigning in the Kyuubi's influence. So when do we start? Naruto asked. Once we reach where I'm taking you, because nobody ever goes there. We'll be safe, I think. At least, we should be safe. I don't know if there's any traps left waiting. That's reassuring, Tayuya said sarcastically. Well, unless you want to traipse around the elemental nations, where we all have enemies, which we will, eventually, but hopefully it won't be until you two have managed to build your skills up to snuff. Sound good? Yeah, I guess. Okay, get out your stuff then. I'll keep first wa. 3 of Naruto's clones appeared. We'll split the watch, Iro-senin. One of them said. You know, kid, that jutsu wasn't made to be abused. But here I am anyway. Jiraiya moved away, setting up a lean-to tent and sleeping bag. Hey, Naruto. You didn't bring a tent, did you? No, just a sleeping bag. Why? Take a wild fucking guess, piss brain. God damn it. He hissed. Calm the fuck down, nothing we haven't done for the last 3 days. Yeah, but nah, whatever. You go ahead, I gotta look at something for a second. He pulled the sleeping bag out of his pack, tossing the rolled up bundle to her. Suit yourself, asshole. After she'd rolled it out and laid down, with his clones patrolling the area, Naruto looked at the scrap of paper he'd been given earlier in the day. Though you'll be gone for 3 years, nobody in this village will forget you. So don't forget, when you come back, that's when your real training can begin. I'll be waiting. The words disappeared, likely a seal, and Naruto was left staring at a blank piece of paper. Without another word, he placed it back in his jacket's pocket, though he stripped from it before laying down next to Tayuya. In truth, he didn't care whether she was actually trying to seduce him, or if it was all one big joke to take up her spare time. He knew the reason why Tsunade had originally chosen to stick her to him. She was an outcast with no home, no one to trust, and nothing to lose. At one point in time, that had been Naruto's lot in life. Even through his years at the academy, he'd lived on the streets instead of the small apartment that the Sandaime had tried to give him. The top floor of that brothel had been his apartment for less than a year. He hadn't liked the apartment that he'd been given as a child. The walls had told him that he wasn't strong enough to live on his own, so others took pity on him. Having that apartment had told him that he should be afraid of the streets, of the people who walked them. All the while, his presence inside changed nothing about what went on in the outside. He'd made a difference for Tenten, so it stood to reason that he could make a difference for others as well, so he'd abandoned that apartment and gone back to his life as a street urchin. Well, it was true that most of the children with civilian parents hadn't associated with him, and that the ninja-born children were almost as reticent to be near him. Naruto had held the top dog position in the streets he'd roamed, since he could walk. He'd been a leader and a brother to them all, and had made sure they all went to the academy when they were old enough. Well, it was true that most of them probably wouldn't go very far in their careers. The skills of a street rat were invaluable to the shinobi lifestyle. If Tayuya had ever had any kind of bonds like that, they had been severed when Orochimaru took her in, and Naruto doubted that anything good would have happened afterward. In the same way that Naruto's luck always went from bad to worse, anything involving the rogue white snake was certain to be bad news. The man had built a reputation for himself. As Tayuya shuffled around next to him, he closed his eyes. Whatever the next day would bring, he would face it head-on. No matter what happened in the next 3 years, he would come out on top. He trained like hell to make sure of it. Sleep came quickly, though he was still somewhat conscious of the arms that curled around him. Well, in the end, it didn't matter. If Jiraiya tried to say something about it, he could endure. Chapter 6. Entering the ruins, training begins. Iro-senin, it's been 3 days. Where the hell are you taking us? We're almost there. Give it about 5 more minutes, and you'll see why I said nobody will come bother us once we're there. Soon enough, the trees ended, and the trio arrived at a beach. Welcome to the eastern edge of Hai no Kuni, Jiraiya announced. The bridge extended out into the ocean, broken in more than one place, far enough that it didn't seem to end. Choppy waves, gray and fierce, rolled onto the sand beneath them. It was high tide, and the land was angry. Thunder rolled in the distance, before lightning split the water beneath. It's been like this since the end of the Second War. Almost 40 years ago. My suspicion is that someone died with their hand on a barrier defense post, and that connection keeps chakra circulating, even though the person who cast the jutsu is dead. A permanent defense against enemies, even in death and destruction. Where are we, though? I don't recognize this place, Tayuya said. Yeah, and I've never heard about anything like this being in Hai no Kuni. What's going on? I told you, welcome to the country's eastern edge. However, I left something else out. Welcome to the western edge of the ruins of Yuzu no Kuni. Yuzu no Kuni? That sounds like. Yes, and there's good reason for that. Yuzu no Kuni is the nation that housed Uzushio, which was wiped out near the end of the Second War by the combined efforts of Iwagakure, Kamagakure, and Kurigakure. There were no survivors. A ninja village that got taken off the map. Did they have powerful clans? Tayuya asked. There was only one in Uzushio, but they were like the Hyuga or Uchiha. Big enough that inter-clan marriages weren't incestuous due to the sheer size of their clan, and they were larger than both of those groups combined. Spill the beans, Naruto said. The people that lived in Uzushio were the Uzumaki clan. Jiraiya said, a somber look in his eyes as Naruto locked onto him. Your mother's family. And my father. I'm not allowed to tell you. My sensei passed a law, years back, that said you were to be told on your 18th birthday, or whenever a sitting Hokage sees fit. The law was broken when you were told about the Kyuubi, and I broke it right now, but I don't think you should know everything just yet. I didn't agree with the mandate, but I thought you deserved to know something about your heritage. I'm going to turn 18 before we're back in Konoha in 3 years. Why not just tell me now? Jiraiya grinned. There you go, always hungry for more, that's good. The other reason is, you're not strong enough to live outside of his shadow. Now, come on, let's get inside those ruins, and through the perimeter defense, before we manage to get fried. The older ninja took off, leaving Naruto and Tayuya behind. The pair shared a knowing look before running after him. That son of a bitch knows. Tayuya growled. Leave it be, besides, I already know the truth. Whether or not he tells me is grounds to know whether or not I can trust him. Itachi had been right about him, Naruto knew. He wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice his relationship with one person if it meant that he could protect many more. That was what it meant to be Hokage, wasn't it? The entire village would be his to lead, and he'd learned as a child that good leaders couldn't play favorites. That having been said, he knew that both the Sandaime and Godame Hokage had definitely made a favorite out of him. For one, it was because an out-of-control Jinchuriki would have been a catastrophe. For the other, it was because he reminded her of her dead brother and husband. No, he decided as he sped up, quickly reaching and then outpacing Jiraiya. When he became Hokage, he wouldn't play favorites. He ignored the sun-weathered corpses of those who had been struck by the lightning around him, though the bolts never came near to touching him. In spite of the unsheathed sword on his back, he seemed to act the opposite of a lightning rod. Just as Jiraiya had said, a woman's corpse was attached to a chakra siphoning. Naruto didn't have a word for what it was. A dark blue bowl, with streaks of white running through it where her hand was fixed, which stood atop a small stone stand. Behind her stood the shattered gates to Uzushio, with the wall visibly cracked or missing pieces in several places. Just leave her there, Jiraiya said. The barrier that her chakra gives this land is enough that we won't be bothered until we're gone. With a heavy heart, looking at the first other Uzumaki he'd ever seen in the flesh, Naruto followed behind his mentor into the destroyed Uzushio. What he saw horrified him. He knew it was an illusion. It had to be. Even so, he couldn't look away. Lightning came down with the rain, blood running to mix with water in the streets. Without warning, Doton techniques caused the surrounding buildings to begin crumbling. Children and civilians rushed about in the streets, kunai embedding themselves in the backs of those who sought to flee. Water rose up from outside the village walls, smashing into them and flowing over the top. Enemies from 3 nations overran the streets of Uzushio, and the screams of the dying were louder than the thunder overhead. No survivors. An Iwagakure shinobi ordered. We'll show Konoha what happens when they attack our allies in Imegakure, but we'll do a better job. You will do no such thing. A man's voice declared, before a katana was shoved straight through the enemy's heart. The man's red hair rested in a mop, his bushy beard left untamed and wiry. Blood matted his clothing, and his Uzushio headband was scratched all over. Ha! You think you can win, Uzukichi? We outnumber your whole force 3-1. It's not about victory. It's about survival. The Uzukichi's eyes narrowed, taking in his surroundings. Besides, I've already bought my wife enough time to have escaped. You've made me a very angry man, you know. I was going to be a father. If it's a boy, he'll be named Kaor. If it's a girl, she'll be named Kushina. Now face death. His movements were blurry, cutting through wave after wave of enemies, even after he was the last Uzumaki standing. Halt. A newcomer's voice rang out, and Shimura Danzo came into view before the gates with a group of his shadowy forces. Danzo. Your rival, how did you know we needed help? No, it doesn't matter. Please, help us win this fight. The Uzukichi turned around, running off, and never saw the blade of vacuumed wind that took his head off. In advance. The ruthless order left Danzo's lips, and the triple alliance between Iwa, Kumo and Kiri began to die en masse to the blades of Konoha's ghostly fighting force. When the rain cleared at last, all that remained were the rubble and bodies that littered the ground. No trace remained of the Uzukichi's murder, or even the bodies of his village's assailants. The Jinjutsu faded, and Naruto sank to his knees, with a shaking Tayuya beside him, and Jiraiya hanging his head in front of them both. That was your maternal grandfather, Uzumaki Josuke. Father of Uzumaki Kushina, the Nide Musukage. I was named no Kuni at the time, training my own team. The wistful look in Jiraiya's eyes told the younger ninja that something had happened to that team. Naruto knew it was irrational to be attached to the dead who had been gone for years before his birth. Before his mother's birth. Even so, this was beyond painful. He had never known them, would never know them, but they were his family all the same, and he had seen them slaughtered. He only had one question. Who's Danzo? The man who should have been eliminated a long time ago. Jiraiya's expression hardened. He was a teammate of my sensei, and the second choice for Sandaime Hokage. His ambition is limitless, second only to his twisted sense of loyalty to Konoha. He offers support to Tsunade, but only in vocal amounts. None of his Naanbu's boots are ever seen on the ground, and they don't associate with the regular forces. Danzo is their leader, and until he becomes Hokage, they will not bow to the ruler of Konoha. Then it won't be an issue, if I kill him. Vengeance for my grandfather, if nothing else. Danzo, that name rings a bell. Tayuya said, straightening her back. I think he was one of Orochimaru's partners in Fuinjutsu experiments and Injutsu creation. Orochimaru is the one who gave him his replacement arm. Then it's not just an arm. Damn it. You're not the only one with a bone to pick against him, Naruto. It's rumored that Danzo was the one who actually ordered the Uchiha massacre, and if that's true, in addition to working with Orochimaru, Jiraiya started swearing. There's gonna be a lot of people who want his head on a platter. Naruto finished their collective thought process. But you can't go out in the open with it, otherwise, he'll run. So the best course of action is to just keep training. Tayuya said. Much as I hated to admit it, she's right. So time to start. By the time I'm through with you, you'll be too tired to think about revenge. Jiraiya was right, Naruto admitted to himself. Burying himself in thoughts of revenge would leave him vulnerable to the trap that Sasuke had fallen into. It hadn't mattered to him before, and it shouldn't matter after. If anything, he should be angrier at the ninja who'd done the most killing, but it was war. Kill your enemy, or die. Danzo's murder of his grandfather hadn't been war, it had been betrayal. That was something more despicable than most Nukenin would commit, with the notable exceptions of people like Orochimaru or Itachi, and even then. To arrive nearly too late to aid your ally in a time of war, only to murder them. That was sickeningly cruel, beyond anything Naruto had seen before. He would throw everything he had into the training. Maybe Jiraiya could earn his trust in ways besides learning about his parents. It had been 3 months since the trio had left Konoha. Naruto sat outside the gates of Uzushio, the small hell allowing him to look out over the sea with a slightly raised vantage point. After the first week, he'd started to occasionally come down and talk to the still warm corpse of the woman who died attached to her attack station. While Jiraiya oversaw his clones' work in achieving muscle memory, chakra control, and basic calligraphy, another team of clones was working on restoring the village from its destroyed state. Even though he didn't intend on living in the remnants of the past, he still felt a familial duty to avoid leaving the village in shambles. Once, a building's restoration had revealed a collection of scrolls. Jiraiya had surmised that it was the Uzukage's office building, similar to the Hokage Tower in Konoha. The discovery that he could retain the memories of his clones, as well as improve his ability slightly for every clone that trained, had been an immense step forward for him. So anyway, Sheki-chan, I'm getting better at Fuinjutsu. Has anyone ever told you that it's fucking fucked up to talk to dead people like they're here? Tayuya walked over to him, knowing where to find him in the event that he disappeared. I don't care. Besides, my sensei spends time every day standing at the memorial and talking to his teammates, probably my dad, too. If he does it, it can't be that bad. This brain, do you know how infamous Hada Kakashi is? No. Aiwa and Kumo both have a flea-on-site issue for him, and Orochimaru was more worried about fighting Kakashi than Jiraiya when the invasion of Konoha took place. He had almost 100 confirmed kills in the Third Great War, including the last Sanbi Jinchuriki. That was when he was younger than we are, and we aren't even half of his age. Tayuya-chan, I have a question. How the fuck do you always know so much about anything? Unlike you, piss for brains, I take the time to look through mission dossiers, so that I know who I should and shouldn't fucking fight. Fuck that, I'll fight anyone. That attitude's gonna get you killed one day, asshole. The fuck would I do then? Find a safer job, I guess. What kind of question is that? I don't know. Looks like being around you for so long has made me go soft, damn it, what a pain. First you kick Shikamaru's ass, now you steal his catchphrases. What's next? Are you going to slump over and mutter Mendakus under your breath like he does every time Ino's being a bitch about something? Not a bad idea, Ani-chan. Maybe you should take that habit up too. Come on, Tayuya-chan. Don't fuck with me like that. Would you rather I just fuck you, instead? Naruto closed his eyes, frowning as he let a breath out. This is why I keep complaining about you to Shiki-chan. Are you just that unimaginative, or did you think it would be edgy to name a girl's dead fucking body, Death? Because if it's the first one, I'm sorry, but if it's the second one, then I'm gonna punch your lights out. Hey, what the hell do you mean you complain about me, asshole? Honestly, all your attempts to be lewd. It's pretty obvious you're not doing it because oh god, you love me, and nobody's ever seriously tried to be that way with me. I'm not saying it makes me uncomfortable, that'd be a bullshit double standard, given that Iro-sen peeps in every onsen he can, but this brain, we sleep together. You're my personal space heater at night. And that's fine. He assured her. I'm used to it, it's not an invasion of space for you to be right next to me. Hell, half the time when you're near me I barely even. A quick, unexpected kiss on the cheek was enough to shock Naruto into silence. Oh, thank fuck. You stopped talking. Toyua giggled. I'm gonna go now, but you and I are gonna talk later, alright. Alright. Tayuya left, heading back through the gateway, leaving Naruto by himself once again. So anyway, Shiki-chan, today is my day off for physical training, and my clones are getting run into the ground learning Fuinjutsu calligraphy. Iro-sen also put a chakra limitation seal on me, that he can remotely deactivate, so I can focus on controlling my chakra without worrying about wasting any. I think that's cool. Unconsciously, his eyes kept moving from the seascape before him to the navy blue bowl on his left, Shiki-chan's hand still attached. I wonder how you work this thing. Naruto wondered. Iro-sen said he thinks the chakra works itself into a loop, keeping your jutsu active as it's running through your body. If that's true, I could probably replace all your chakra with mine. Let's see, just put my hand on it. Slowly, with no small amount of anticipation, Naruto reached his hand out and began to send chakra flowing to the orb, but it wasn't until his hand actually touched the defensive station that he knew he'd made a mistake. White-hot pain sent itself through his body, and the Kyuubi screamed at him to pull away, but he couldn't. The magnetism anchoring his hand to that ball was greater than any force Naruto had ever come into contact with. Slowly, he could hear the demon inside of him less and less, until his voice faded out completely. Welcome to the labyrinth. A disembodied voice told him. Find the exit, and you may leave. Well, that sounds easy enough. Naruto said to himself. If I find anybody else, can I take them with me? There are 3 others. If they find the exit, they may leave. Do I get a map? On the wall before him, a map revealed itself. Wow, this is a big-ass fucking maze. The map erased itself, but Naruto had found everything he needed just from those 5 seconds. He spent his childhood navigating the underbelly of Konoha, when puny chakra-based maze was gonna be a walk in the park. The maze itself was built in a spiral, reminiscent of a whirlpool. True to form, the exit was in the very center of the maze, not at any of the corners. The other 3 people in the labyrinth had all started in separate corners, and now it was time to find them. The first person he came across was a small redheaded girl. Hey. Naruto said. What's your name? Ah. Get away from me. The maze sent you after me, didn't it? He had shadow clones patrolling the maze, disappearing whenever they found dead ends. Somehow they'd missed this girl, but Naruto knew she was going down a dead-end path. He had her cornered. I'm not here to get you. I want to help you. Naruto called out, sitting down in front of her. Can you tell me your name? Uzumaki Rei. Okay, Rei. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I'm stuck in here with you. There's 2 other people in here besides us. We're gonna find them, and then we're gonna get out of here together. Okay. Okay. Rei gave a big smile. Naruto didn't know how long she'd been in here, but it had to have been before Uzushio fell. You wanna ride on Naruto Oni-chan's back? He smiled back at her. Sure. Thanks, Oni-chan. Just like that, the 2 were on their way. The next person he found was a boy, about the same age as Rei. Nai-chan. She yelled, jumping down from Naruto's back and ran. Rei Wani. The boy yelled back, running toward her, and they met in the middle for a hug. Kagunai, this is Naruto Oni. He found me, and we're gonna find our way out. Are you 2 twins? Naruto laughed. Yeah. Rei said. He's my little brother. Good to meet you, Kaga. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. If Rei Wani trusts you, then I do too. Let's get going, we've spent way too much time in here already. Hey, hold on. Out of curiosity, how old are you 2? 8. They raised their hands, holding up 4 fingers on each. Okay. Do you know how long you've been in here? Do you know who the Hokage is? If he was right, they would say the Sandame, Saratobi Hiruzen. What's a Hokage? Rei asked. The leader of Konohagakure. You know, Uzushio's big ally. It was formed by the Senju and the Uchiha clans, like, forever ago. The Senju and the Uchiha? Kauga asked. Yeah, do you know who they are? Of course we do. Rei said, with all the indignance of a child who'd been asked if she knew basic math. Our cousins are Senju Hashirama and Taburama, and Uchiha Madara and Izuna. Oh okay. Let's get a move on, alright. We don't want to take up any more time in here than we have to now, huh? She'd been killing his clones. He didn't know what to make of that. Now, he stood in front of her, with Rei and Kauga behind him. Who are you? She asked. Not a clone this time. He said. I'm trying to get these 2 to the exit. Trying to find you, to get you to the exit. You've been going in a circle. I meant your name. Oh, right, oops, I'm Uzumaki Naruto. The blonde Uzumaki. She said, her gaze shifting between him and the twins behind him. My dad wasn't one of us. I'm from Konoha. How many years has it been, outside? Since the village fell. 37. And I've been here for 36. I gave birth to my daughter in Konoha, and came back here. She was left in Mito's care. My name is Uzumaki Oboro, wife of Josuke. That makes you my grandmother, Naruto said. Both of my parents died the night I was born, but my mother was Uzumaki Kushina. How? I don't know. I'm a Jinchuriki, though. My father died sealing the Kyuubi into me. I think mom was just a collateral casualty. I have lost my husband, I have lost my siblings and parents, I have lost the daughter I never knew, but I have a grandson. The Boro's facial expression was unreadable, pained and yet somehow elated. There's no point in focusing on everything I've lost. She continued. I'll move forward, with you. Soon enough, they found the exit, and after making certain that the other three went ahead first, he followed into the white ceiling matrix in the center of the labyrinth. The same burning hot sensation went through him, and the feeling of the Kyuubi in his gut came back gradually. He was on the ground, looking up at Tayuya and Jiraiya. Tayuya-chan, you're Senin, how long was I out? 2 days. You're not the one who should be asking that question, Meigo-kun. Oboro said, picking herself up off the ground. That's a question for Rei and Kauga. Naruto hopped up and looked over to the other side of the labyrinth stone, seeing both children. Naruto, Jiraiya began. What the hell happened? Tayuya finished. Hope you enjoyed this part, guys.